The Demon Slayer Infinity Castle movie is out, and I actually have to say, this movie is good. It's actually a banger. Let's just get out of the way first. The movie was so peak, someone started R-Kellying the whole theater and start using the piss breathing technique and get beat up. If you think this is just a video about me talking about how mid or how I hate Demon Slayer, well then you're in the wrong place. Much more nuanced than that. But I'm also not just a pure glazer. I can see the waves of 10 out of 10s I have seen thrown around in different rating, score, movie, anime sites. Is Demon Slayer my favorite series? No. But let's be real for a second. If you think this movie or the anime series was just bad with no redeeming qualities, I'm just gonna be honest, you might be a little bit blinded by your own ego here. Now before we get into the flashback problem that I have put on the damn clickbait, let's talk about where we're at. Demon Slayer is finally entering the endgame. This is it, the Michael Jackson one. And as you may know, the movie is just the first part of a full-blown trilogy. Now, getting into the movie, presentation-wise, the animation is simply a masterclass. Demon Slayer has always been at the peak of what anime animation can be. The sakuga, the fluidity, and the sheer beauty of it. It feels like anime has never looked better. And if you say otherwise, there's something wrong with your eyes, man. The filmmaking is also top-notch, the cinematography is fantastic, the demon slaying, shonen action scenes hit hard AF. The camera movements are dynamic, visually, it's godlike. I have no clue what kind of demonic sacrifice studio Ufotable has been doing, but these guys, yeah, they definitely cooked. And basically just adding to the theory that they have unlimited budget worked. Also, the way they blend 2D and 3D animation in this movie is beautiful. The CG, or the 3D actually, blends well with the 2D. They might have had that goofy looking fish.
What is that?
I can actually feel the scale of the Infinity Castle. The lighting, the shading, the way the shadows bounce off each other in such a complex environment. It's just so well done. And the sound design is also great. And the score that gives me goosebumps. And there's a reason why that Infinity Castle theme has been used in so many memes. And now, this is the part where you came for. Let's talk about the narrative. I know the complaints people have made for this movie or the anime series as well. I've heard them all. Ooh, the flashbacks are so boring. Flashback Slayer, I need more epic fights, less sappy backstories. Look, let's get our heads aligned for a moment and pull back a bit. It's no secret that Demon Slayer isn't exactly known or praised for its super compelling storyline, or does it have deep characters or substantial world building. In fact, I'd say the story from the source material, the manga, is just, well, it's fine, standard, serviceable at best. So why is this show a global phenomenon? Well, it's simple. The story is easy to get into and understand, and while the characters aren't overly complex, they're easy to follow, love, and root for. They have distinct and stylish designs, and you can see it, a lot of people love it, a lot of people cosplay them. And the reason why this series is so beloved by the fans and able to gain such a huge casual audience, which makes it so mainstream, is because the flashbacks themselves. Other than it being emotional, they are easy to understand, and just look up Demon Slayer episode reactions on YouTube to know what I mean. And the last biggest reason is that it found the perfect studio. It's not even a hot take to say that Ufotable absolutely carried the series. If some other studio like Silverlink, I guess, had been the one to adapt this, I can almost guarantee you it wouldn't be nearly as memorable or mainstream. It might have been, well, probably And while it might not be the most groundbreaking way to do character development or story progression, the flashbacks are essentially what made these characters who they are. It's where they have their growth and come full circle. If you take the flashbacks out of this series or this movie, it would just be a hollow action shonen show with pretty visuals. The truth is, while it's far from a perfect storytelling, the flashbacks have always been the best parts of Demon Slayer. They are the emotional gut punch for viewers. I've bawled my eyes out from the Spider family story, Gyutaro and Ducky's past, and possibly still the best part of Demon Slayer, the Entertainment District arc, and of course Rengoku's and now of course Akaza in this new movie. Now the main issue I have with the Infinity Castle movie, it's not the flashback themselves. We've already established they are literally the best parts of Demon Slayer and now the movie. The main issue is the placement of the the flashbacks. And because of that, the movie's pacing just feels way off. It's totally uneven. It's not a smooth ride at all. And it feels unbalanced and honestly a bit repetitive. If you watched this movie and felt like something was different, like it just kept going up and down, then you know what I'm talking about. I'm just gonna say it. The Infinity Castle movie is basically a TV series that's been forced into a movie. I know some of you felt it too, especially when a huge moment or revelation and then it just cuts to black before jumping to a different character or scene. It's jarring. Instead of a typical 3-act movie structure, Infinity Castle is just 3 perspectives compiled and edited together like it's an anime series. You've got the first half of the Doma versus Shinobu fight, and then Zenitsu versus the Upper Moon intern Kaigaku, and then the Akaza fight with Gyu and Tanjiro. It's delivered in this literal cycle. First character's perspective, intro fight, flashback fight, the end. Second character's perspective, intro fight, flashback fight, the end. Again, the third time, intro fight, flashback fight, then in the end, the movie's just over.
Nobody got you the way I do.
This is why I think there's some opinions that some people might feel bored or even sleepy or just simply say the flashbacks are bad. It also explains why I think some people are just on the verge of getting emotional but just couldn't reach that peak. And they might even comment, well, it wasn't that sad, you guys are just overreacting. But like I always said, the flashbacks themselves on their own are good. It's the placement of it. Since this movie doesn't have a clear build-up to an emotional punchline, it's just a set of uneven mountains until the end. While the Infinite Castle movie might be more bombastic, dramatic, and epic, the Mugen Train movie is far better paced and executed because it works so much better as a movie. It was a story or an arc that was pretty contained with a clear start, middle, and end. And I know what you're thinking, but the movie is a manga adaptation, it's just being true to the source. And to that I say, yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a byproduct of how the story was delivered in the manga, but the problem is when you do a one-to-one adaptation and force that kind of episodic pacing into a movie format, you get this weird side effects. That's why the movie for me isn't a home run easy 10 out of 10 masterpieces like most people say it is. So because of these pacing issues, Infinity Castle Part 1 doesn't become the excellent banger it could have been. It's just a good banger. Again, that's just my opinion. While the movie is undoubtedly a lot of fun, there's even added fighting choreography and action sequences in the movie that didn't exist in the manga, and all of that is great still. But in the end, in execution, the movie still feels uneven. There are moments towards later half of the movie where I feel a bit mentally exhausted but not necessarily bored, especially when the Akaza backstory is over. And yeah, and that thing was long as heck. I'm actually thinking, oh yeah, we're fighting Akaza right now. Again, there's no problem with Akaza's backstory. It is how it was placed in the form of a movie. Even if you did watch this as a series or it would get a series format, you would get those breaks. You can binge watch 5-6 episodes in a row, but at least you get a pause after each one, or you can just pause the anime during the eye catches. Mid-episodes of an anime series would have, and you just, bugger off and do things before you get back into watching. But in a movie, it's jarring when it's, a clear start to finish. For example, the movie has a lot of very hype scene, right? Tanjiro is screaming Akaza's name, roar!
What?
Ready for a beating, Akaza has his Snow White buff on, and it just fades to black. Now that's an anime episode cliffhanger.
Nobody got you the
Designed to hype you up for the next episode, but for a movie, it feels completely anticlimactic and ruins the flow of the action scene. Not to mention, spoiler alert, pretty big moment in the movie, but Shinobu's death feels diminished because the movie cuts away into the start of Zenitsu's fight, and Doma's fight just hangs there, waiting until the next movie comes out. Yes, it follows the manga, yes, it's accurate, but that's how the movie executes it, and that's the issue. The movie is a byproduct of the manga's episodic nature, a problem that Ufotable never had any intention of tackling, as you can watch. And it's a bit of a shame really, because I truly think this finale could have been adapted so much better, and that's why as a movie I have to call that a negative point. Just having a one-to-one adaptation as a reason does not automatically make it a good viewing experience. Other animes have shown that they can significantly improve upon the source material without changing critical story beats. And definitely do not change change that. You see what happened to Tokyo Ghoul Day?
This is all I got.
Now that's where a stronger director or direction and some creative editing could have really improved this movie. Imagine if the pacing was parallel, like movies do sometimes when they have multiple things going on at the same time. Instead of just showing 3 fights after one another, just imagine the build-up of all 3 at the same time. We got the introduction of Doma, and then set up how terrifying he can be. And then of course the introduction of Kaigaku, the intern upper demon, meeting Zenitsu, which the story has set up to master more moves than Zenitsu does, and of course Akaza's entry into the fight. So after all these dangers and then the initial fights have been shown, and then in the middle of that chaos we go parallel with the backstories. You can even take out a lot of the long narration and just let these backstories breathe on their own, and I'm pretty sure even a dumbass can follow a Demon Slayer flashback just by looking at the visuals. And over narration has always been an issue for Demon Slayer for me ever since season 1, so let's just move past that. And then of course the payoff, the big fights, and of course the emotional punch, the flashbacks, all hitting at you at the same time. Imagine how emotional that could be and how impactful the 3rd act of a movie can be, and that's a clear 3-act movie. And man, that would have been so much better, to me anyway. But again, I'm just a viewer, not an animator or a director. I can only provide criticism and what I think could have been a better solution. And that's why when you look at other ufotable works like the Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel trilogy movie, for example, pretty similar to this. It's the first part of a trilogy. It is a series that is going to be adapted into a movie, in this case an eroge. And while the first Heaven's Feel movie ends on a cliffhanger, obviously, it is still a much better form or way of adapting it or adaptation. It has a clear Act 1, 2, 3, a setup, build, and a punchline. But this video is not a review of Heaven's Feel, and of course I know there are different circumstances for doing adaptations. They're always different, but I'm just trying to prove the point that this can be executed much better. And after that, since the show was edited in a way that it is more like episodic in nature, like a TV series, mark my words, after some time these movies have come out, they will definitely make an anime version to milk this even more. Just like how there's a Mugen Train movie and then it got repackaged as a series with additional scenes. Just wait for it. So to wrap this up, Demon Slayer Infinity Castle is definitely not a bad movie. It's far from it. But to me, I think it over-delivers in presentation. It looks masterful, but sadly it under-delivers in the execution of the story. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with the flashback themselves. In fact, they're great. Akaza's backstory is probably the biggest highlight of the movie, for sure. But the way Ufotable handled their placement and the pacing of the movie meant the movie feel uneven and at times unsatisfying. If I had to grade this movie, I'd probably give it like an 8. It's a great watch, but it's not the masterpiece or home run that it absolutely could have been and what most have said. Yeah, but I still like the movie though, it's fine. And I'll be there on the second one. So if you guys actually watch it this far, please, if you can, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, or if you want to hear me ramble about anime some other day. And please do leave a comment. Let's have a healthy debate down there.